It's great to see all of you out here today. I'm very excited about starting the upcoming season. It's been a long preseason. We started back in July this year. The NCAA passed a rule that says you can come in a week earlier with no two-a-days. So that gives us one additional week of practice, and it's one that we've really put to great use, because this year we're going to be counting on a lot of good young guys to fill in some spots where we lost some outstanding football players. When you talk about this year's football team, we've got a good little core back on both sides of the football and in the kicking game. Offensively, you'd have to start with the offensive line, where last year we were only returning one guy, and that was Stockton Mallett. This year we had all five guys coming back to start the season. Stockton sustained an injury about the fourth day of practice. He's not going to be back. He's going to redshirt this year. But the other four guys who played every game last year are back. We've had a freshman, Adrian Harris, that has really stepped up. He redshirted last year and is doing an outstanding job in filling in for the spot that Stockton vacated. We were also fortunate to have a senior that played quite a bit last year, and Connor Wood, that is also manning that left guard spot. So, offensive line coming into the year was going to be one of our biggest strengths, with all five guys returning with a preseason All-American. We lost the preseason All-American, but I really like the guys that we've got filling in that spot. So that brings a lot of solidarity, a lot of experience back to a group that if you wanted to have experience somewhere, offensive line is a good place to start. Also, Hayden Hildebrand is back at the quarterback spot. This will be, basically Hayden's third year now as a starter. He took over 2 years ago when Taylor Reed got hurt, and did a great job that year, and then played every game last year, and so he's back to start his third year. In the backfield, Carlos Blackman is back. Last year as a freshman, he rushed for over 600 yards. Has had an outstanding spring, really good fall camp, and I'm excited to see what Carlos can do this year with a full year in the weight room and a year learning the system under his belt. We've got a very explosive back. Kier Crossley is a young man from out of Texas that we redshirted last year. He brings a burst, a certain amount of speed. He's an electric football player. I like watching him run the football, and those two guys should give us a really good 1-2 punch in the backfield. At receiver, last year we had, ever since I've been here, you had a Desmond Lewis the first year, of a big-time football player. Then when Desmond graduated, you had Desmond Smith and Jatavius Wilson. So we've had a gluttony of ability out there at receiver, guys that had led the conference the year before or led the team. And, this is the first year that we don't have a guy that's led the conference coming back to play receiver. But I really like the group of receivers that we do have. That group would be led by Brandon Cox, who is from right here in Conway. Brandon, you look at it, Brandon really did a lot of good things, in the 2 years that he's been here. Last year he had, the big play against Arkansas State that helped win that football game. And he does a lot of little things that you don't see, that don't necessarily show up on the stat page, as far as blocking, special teams play. He does a lot of good things that add to the football team. And he's a guy that has had, I honestly believe that, Jatavius was so entrenched when Brandon came in that, he's really been waiting for his opportunity, and last spring had an outstanding spring and has had a really good summer. I look for him to really, explode onto the scene and have a really good year for us, and he's one that we're counting on to step up and take some of that slack that was left with the departure of Jatavius and Desmond. Roman Gordon is another guy that should really step up and have an outstanding year. Roman's been playing the 3 years that I've been here. Roman has rotated in, and when he's had his opportunities, has done an outstanding job. I think back, we were looking at it, and we were you lose two really good players there at wide receiver, but then you go back and you start watching the film from last year. Against Southeastern, coming off the goal line, Roman caught a 50-yard bomb against them on a post route. Big play that you didn't think a whole lot about at the time, or once that was over. And then you go to the McNeese game. He had a 70-yard touchdown on a post against McNeese, who was a really good football team. Then you look at Arkansas State. He caught a ball and went down the sideline for about 40 yards. You start putting together his highlight tape. He's made some big plays in big games. He just hadn't had that opportunity that much because it was always Desmond Smith or Desmond Lewis. I think he's really ready to step into that next role. Out of our signing class, I'm very excited about some of the receivers that we've signed. Really good group of freshman wide receivers, and some of them will have a chance to play this year. One has really shown up. Now, he hadn't been here, but I guess we started summer school June the 5th. So he's been here. July the 5th was one, August 5th. He's been here about 2.5 months, going on 3 months. But a guy that has shown that he can be a big-time difference maker is Brandon Myers from down around Tampa, Florida. Brandon he's in that Desmond Lewis physical mold. I mean, he's a 6'3", 220-pound wide receiver. He's a big physical wide receiver that, the first thing when a freshman comes on board, there's two things that they've got to do. One, they got to pick it up mentally, be able to learn what to do and get accustomed to the defense changing, the plays changing, your option routes. If they do this, then you do that. So there's a mental aspect of it. But there's a lot of guys that may have the mental aspect of it, but they need to get in the weight room for a year or two to pack on the size and the strength. Well, Brandon comes in. He's already 6'3", 220. And he is a very, very smart football player. He's a guy that picks it up very, very, very quickly. So he's a guy that could jump onto the scene here pretty quick as a true freshman. He's a guy that in the first two scrimmages that we had, he went deep and went up, and he's shown that he can go catch the deep ball and go up over people and make the acrobatic catch. So he's a guy that we're very excited about. Lawan Winningham is another freshman wide receiver that's got a lot of ability. Right now we'd like to redshirt him, but he's showing a lot of good stuff to where we may not be able to. Kylan Robinson is another good young wide receiver that we like there. So, we've got a couple of question marks there, but I like the guys that we've got to fill those question mark spots, and then we've got some good young players behind them to keep developing. So offensively, we've got some guys that have done it before in big games with Carlos Blackman and Hayden Hildebrand and some of those offensive linemen, and then we've got a couple of spots where we need some guys to step up. But that's the beauty of it. That's what makes football so much fun, is every year people are stepping up. Defensively, we were really good on the defensive line last year. That was kind of our calling card. You couldn't run the football on us. We graduated our two inside guys, and I like the guys that we've got stepping up to replace them. Bubba Williams, big Javian Williams from North Little Rock. He'll step in and play the nose guard for us. Bubba is a big physical guy. He's 360 pounds, and he is, and then last year at the same meeting, I said Bubba was 380. So Bubba has lost 20 pounds and gotten himself, he is a svelte 360. And he's, the thing that excites me about Bubba is that he understands that his role has changed. Last year he was behind Terrence Partee and Dawson Hadnot. He was kind of a third guy who really did a good job on the short yardage goal line for us last year, but that was his role. This year his role changes. Those guys are gone. Now you step up into the into the base defense role. Bubba was a guy where you get the month of May off. You nowadays, football's about an 11-month deal, and the 1 month that you get is after spring semester's over, the end of April, the beginning of May. They go home in May, and they come back June the 5th to start first term summer. Well, Bubba's the guy that, he was in that indoor facility every day during May, running, getting himself into shape, pushing himself. Every single day that door was open, he was in there pushing those sleds and getting extra running in. And he's gone from, like I say, around a 380 down to about, the other day was 354, which is really, really good. He gives us a physical presence on the inside there that, should be tough, for them to move around. Another guy that I'm very excited about is a true freshman, Javius Brown from Jackson, Mississippi. Javius will back Bubba up at nose guard. Javius is 6'1", 317, and he's a big physical nose guard, a guy that is going to be a really, really good football player that you'll hear a lot about over the next couple of years. But he'll get thrown in there, as a true freshman. But he's shown that he's got the ability to make plays as a true freshman. Austin Norris is a young man that redshirted for us last year from right here in Conway. Look for Austin to have a really good year at the defensive tackle spot, along with Eric Jackson. Eric Jackson probably played about 40% of the snaps last year behind Jordan Tolliver. Eric will step into that starting role, and Eric brings a certain amount of quickness. He's about a 260, 265, so he's not quite as big as the other guys, but he's got a twitch to him. He's very twitchy, very explosive. So we've got some things that we can mix and match on the inside there. At defensive end, we've had some injuries. Cardell Best was a preseason all-conference guy coming back. Cardell had surgery on his foot in the spring, and things still hadn't healed 100% yet, so he won't be ready to go this week. I don't know that how soon he will be ready to go. Dalvin Simmons had shoulder surgery at the end of spring training. He'll be out for the year. We're already saying we're going to redshirt Dalvin just to let him get that thing back to 100%. So we're losing two good defensive ends that played last year. Fortunately, we've got Chris Terrell, who second team all conference guy last year as a true as a freshman. He's an outstanding football player, so he'll man the one defensive end position for us. And then Chris Chambers, who I think is an outstanding football player. He didn't make any of the all conference teams, but to me that's hard for me to fathom, because we have a very, very hard time blocking him. He is a very good football player and has been playing, for the last 3 years. He'll play the other defensive end position. Backing them up is a guy that I talked about a lot last year, Nathan Grant. He's a guy that physically, when you look at him, he looks like Jonathan Woodard, looks like a young Jonathan Woodard. He's about 6'4", 250. Really, a very strong football player, very quick football player. He's a guy that will be an all-star candidate for the next 4 years. He'll be a redshirt freshman this year. And then J.W. Jones is another guy that is a freshman that we redshirted last year, who will get his first play in time. That's the beauty of that. That's what I like about it. 1 year ago, I was sitting up here. We were having to replace Jonathan Woodard at the defensive end position, and who had been a great player for a lot of years, and you wasn't quite sure what was going to happen on the defensive line, because you're losing arguably the best FCS defensive lineman in the country, a guy that got drafted, and we had a bunch of guys step up, and that was the strength of our team last year, was the defensive line. So that's what makes it so much fun. At receiver, we're losing some great ones, but there's tremendous opportunity for some guys to step up and really make a name for themselves. On the defensive line, we graduated some guys. This is not the first time we've graduated guys, had other guys step up. So I'm very excited about the ones that we've got to step up and fill those spots. And we open up with Kansas State, and the thing with Kansas State, they're going to check your D line out pretty quick. That's what they do. They're going to line down and they're going to run the football. They only throw it for right around 150 yards a game. They're not a team that's going to go no huddle and go up and down the field throwing little out routes and quick game and stuff like that. They're going to line down with some fullbacks and tight ends, and they're going to hand the football off, and they're going to try to make your nose bleed. So that's what we've been preparing for. That's what we've been working on, and we're going to have some young guys in there doing it, but we're very excited about it. We're looking forward to the challenge. They've got, last year Kansas State went 9-4 on the year. Their 4 losses were to Stanford, who went 10-3, to Oklahoma, who I think wound up going like 11-3. Oklahoma State, who was 10-3, and West Virginia, who was 10-3. They lost to 4 10-win football teams. Well, I told our guys we were a 10-win football team too. So that we've got every opportunity to go in there and win this football game. They're one of the best. Well, they had the number 1 ranked defense in their league last year. They were number 1 defense in the Big 12. They give up about 118 yards a game rushing and about 250 passing. That league that they play in is a wide open league. The Big 12 is it's air raid central. Texas Tech throws the ball around. Oklahoma State throws it around. Oklahoma, Baylor. So they're used to playing a wide open type deal. What we've got to do is do a great job of controlling the line of scrimmage and protecting the football and give ourselves a great opportunity to go win this football game. And we're excited about it and looking forward to it. Today is the players' day off as far as practice is concerned. It's a big focus today on academics and the study halls and getting their hours in, getting on top of their schoolwork. We'll be back out at practice tomorrow. We'll have a good full gear day on Tuesday. We'll go shells Wednesday and Thursday, which is helmets and shoulder pads, and then load the bus up Friday morning and take off at 8 o'clock. And look forward to a great game on Saturday. Look forward to seeing all of y'all out there. Hopefully, you can make it to the game in Manhattan, and we look forward to a great game.